Folks, we'd like to introduce you to Ryan Zink. He is the CEO and founder of franchise Sidekick. We're going to feature him as an entrepreneur and his company this week on Grow Omaha. Good morning, Ryan. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. And it's good to meet you in person. I've heard a lot about you, and we've talked on the phone a couple times over the years. And so you have an interesting model in the franchise world. And so I think before we kind of talk about what's going on in the franchise world, why don't you give us a little bit of a background about your career and your business and how you eventually wound up to where you are today running Franchise Sidekick.
Yeah, thanks. Omaha guy, born and raised, Millard South, UNO, got a degree in communications, thought I was going to do what you guys do, and met my wife my senior year. So decided to put that on pause for a minute and just get a job until we figured it out. And I started working at a GNC store, franchise GNC. So I learned franchising there, had some success. And the franchisee and I eventually became business partners, and we started a franchisor called Complete Nutrition. Grew that to a couple of hundred locations around the country. And throughout that process, you learn a lot of things. And the one that I really fell in love with was the franchise development side of it. I always really appreciated the nutrition side, but I fell in love with the idea of people becoming entrepreneurs. So we sold Complete Nutrition in December of 2015. And I got a great piece of advice from an EO brother of mine. And he said, I was like, what should I do next? And he said, do what you know, do it with people you know, and do it in a way that you can do it better. And one of the things that I realized is franchisors, they need to be great at whatever their business is. And it's really difficult for them to be great at that and also be great at finding qualified partners around the country. There was a few folks out there doing franchise development as a franchise sales organization at the time. And I said, I think I might be able to do that a little better. So in January of 2017, started Franchise Fastlane.
And tell us a little bit about Franchise Fastlane, because that's different than Franchise Sidekick.
Yeah, the way I like to explain it is like real estate, right? If you're selling a home, you have a seller's agent that represents your interest, and the person looking at your home, they have a buyer's agent that is looking at their interest. So Franchise Fastlane, they represent next big thing franchisors. They interview about 200 to 220 franchisors a year, and they'll usually bring on about 5 to 10 that have the characteristics to be what we call the next big thing. So then they become an extension of those franchise brands representing them. Now, Franchise Sidekick, we represent clients, people who want to own a franchise. So not the franchisor, but instead the individual who says, hey, look, I'm ready to make the entrepreneurial leap. I want to do it in a way that reduces my risk as much as possible. I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to look at the legal documents. I don't know how to get funding. So we'll go and represent them and find the best franchise for them.
So one thing that's a common denominator in all these things is people. And your company, so you have a stable, like 80 different franchises you were talking about before the show, and you need to fit people, their abilities. How do you figure out what they're capable of? And having money in the bank is an important thing too, but how do you determine their skill set?
Yeah, great question. Well, the first call is always a financial and an experience call, right? So we understand where they are financially, we understand what their experience was, but then we put them through a really robust process called a franchise fit. And that looks at 6 things: time, money, business preferences, probability of success, growth opportunities, and community involvement. So we take them through this, and from there, we can really narrow down. Let's say somebody wants to keep a job. We got to narrow down the number of franchisors that would allow that. Somebody wants to have few employees. Somebody wants retail, or they don't want retail. Whatever those preferences are, child enrichment, food, fitness, whatever their preferences are, we then can go take these franchisors that we've qualified as being fantastic kind of next big thing franchisors, and we usually narrow it down to about 3 to 5 brands that we think will fit the criteria of the person we're working with once they go through that franchise fit process.
You used the analogy earlier of being somewhat like a realtor helping people either sell the house or buy the house. So do you do brokerage in that sort of way? And then does your company get some sort of fee, commission, or royalty that is analogous to how a real estate agent is paid?
Almost like exactly the same. Now, the one big difference, so the franchisors, they pay us, right? And so the one big difference is, as a real estate agent, they're going to be motivated for you to buy a more expensive home because then their percentage is going to be more. Ours is pretty consistent across all the franchise brands. So we truly just want to find the right franchise brand that's right for the client.
So it's just a fixed fee?
Within a small range, very close within a small range. And so then we can really just look at what's the best opportunity for the client, and hopefully we get referrals and repeat business.
How long does the process take for someone who, say, has never done a franchise, has never bought a franchise? How long, and I know it's a range, but how long does that process take from qualifying to figuring it out.
Yeah, you got it. We call that discovery. And it's about if somebody is fully engaged and they're able to make all the meetings that we need them to make, it's about 8 weeks. Now, we've had people that do it in 8 weeks. We've had people that take 6 months because, it's a big decision. Usually a franchise agreement is going to be about 10 years long. You're going to invest, several $100,000 to maybe more. And we really want to make sure that they feel comfortable with that investment. So we don't pressure them to do it within that 8-week period. We give them the time that they need.
So when you're working with them, do you work with them in person or virtually?
Both. I would say the majority of it is virtually. That's just the way business is conducted now. I mean, we're working with hundreds of people interested at any one time. And so the majority of it is over Zoom. But if it is somebody local, we'll absolutely go out and meet them in person.
So your clients are nationwide or worldwide?
Nationwide. Well, North America.
North America. Okay. And then do you just need one office since you do everything or so much virtually, or do you have offices in other cities?
We don't have offices, but we have a lot of remote employees. So, Fastlane, I think we are somewhere in the ballpark of 70 employees. Sidekick is somewhere in the ballpark of 20, and about half in each scenario are here in Omaha.
So let's talk a little bit about franchising in general. When I think of franchises, I think, okay, people choose it because it's safer. There's a model that's already been established, and then it's also a shortcut for branding and marketing because the name's out there. But talk to us a little bit about where franchising is right now. Is it growing? Who's going into it? And am I right? Are those the reasons why people do it?
You are, and there's a misconception around it. So franchising is huge. There's 800,000 different franchise businesses in the United States alone. A new franchise opens every 8 minutes of every working day, right? So It's a huge industry. But I believe the misconception is people will tell you that franchising is inherently safer than starting your own business. And it's not exactly true. There's 4,000 franchise concepts out there, right? So if you're doing your own research, trying to figure it out on your own, if you buy a brand that's stagnant or doesn't have what it takes to really support you, you're not any better off than if you were to go open your own individual business. The key is what I call a top 20% franchise. So only about 20% of franchisors ever reach 100 locations open. And it's kind of a, stick your thumb in the air. But 100 locations traditionally is where I consider them to have somewhat of a national brand presence, a community of peers and other franchisees that can truly help you experience leadership technology, marketing systems that are proven to work. And so what we really can do is we can help people identify what are those franchisors that have the characteristics that if they're under 100 units to get there, and if they're over 100 units to be able to continue to support it through the next phase of growth. And that's so important. The brand first is so important, and it's difficult if you're not in this industry to look at 4,000 of them and say, how do I go find the right one?
Well, Ryan, as we wrap this up, let me ask if any of our listeners want to work with you and your colleagues, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to franchisesidekick.com. Our first phone call is only 10 minutes, right? So it's really easy just to say, hey, let's take a look at your financials, your experience, your capacity, those types of things. And from there, you would then be paired up with a franchise advisor, an experienced franchise advisor, somebody that's been in this industry for a long time that could walk you through the steps.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating, and appreciate you kind of sharing this overview of your business and how the franchising system works. The company is Franchise Sidekick. Ryan Zink, CEO and founder. We appreciate you joining us.
And congratulations on your new office space in Lakeside. We appreciate you leasing one of our buildings, and very excited right next to Walgreens there, and it's going to be very fancy. Thanks to Julie Hockney Design, who's going to make a fancy space there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your help there. And we plan to host a few folks in Omaha that are interested in franchising to come and learn about it. So appreciate it.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ryan. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Ryan Zink, CEO of Franchise Sidekick.
If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.